Welcome to the character lesson on Banquo and Fleance. I'm not really sure how you say that word, Fleance. So maybe your teacher says it differently from me. I've never quite figured out how you're supposed to say it. It's a French sounding word to me, so maybe Fleance, something like that. I'm not sure. But you don't need to be able to say his name, just to analyze him, and that I do know about. So our lesson is going to be about having a look at, firstly, how Banquo is important to the play and different ways to analyze his character and different ways to bring him into analysis of other themes or other characters as well. So even if you don't get a Banquo focused question, you can still use him. And the same with Fleance. Even if you don't get a Fleance focused question, you can still use him too, even if you don't know how to pronounce his name, just like me. So Fleance then, I'm going to quickly whiz through Fleance because he's even more minor than Banquo. He's not really in it much, which is why I don't know how to say his name. So I don't know why I'm whispering. There's like no one else here. So Fleance, he's Banquo's son, first of all. Make sure you can spell his name right because it's weird. I remember when I did my GCSEs, I had no idea how to spell his name because I did Macbeth for GCSE as well, a million years ago. And I kind of avoided talking about Fleance because I didn't know what to do with him and his name. So since then, I've researched and become a better teacher than I was a student. And I've got some good points that you guys can use about him. So he's a minor character, but he is also a very important historical figure because he runs away. He's the one that actually gets the line reinstated, or King James's bloodline reinstated as kings in Scotland. So he's a really important character in reality. But because the play is centered around Macbeth, he's a very minor character who disappears partway through the play in the context of Macbeth. So the main thing that happens with him is he should be murdered, but he escapes. Banquo shows nobility, he shows a strong character because he fights or tries to fight the murderers when he's being murdered in Act 3.3. You'll notice it's the scene directly before the banquet I've only just realised that. Before the feast, I'm going to call it. So 3.4 is the feast, and 3.3 is where Banquo is murdered. So he's just appeared as a ghost directly after being killed. So anyway, he's fighting off the murderers in 3.3, and he kind of helps Fleance get away. So he sort of gives his life so that Fleance can live, which is an important message about lineage and passing on your kind of genetics and passing on your family name and your family kind of honor, that type of thing. So Banquo gives everything to Fleance, basically. And he says, "Thou mayst revenge," which is a good little quote for Banquo or for Fleance, suggesting that Banquo really wants his son to think about taking revenge and avenging his death. So it creates this idea of cycles of revenge and justice and violence, so that there's always someone who's got a motive for power or motive for revenge or that kind of thing. So as good as Banquo is, he does want Fleance to come back and kill Macbeth to make up for, his own death. So it's kind of interesting that kind of moral code. It is quite accurate for the time. They are war generals again, so they're soldiers. They fight all the time. They're used to death and gore and violence and blood and so on. And also this parallels Macduff's revenge subplot, which I talk more about in the Macduff lesson. So we assume he's safe. We don't know what happens to him, but he runs away at this point, 3.3. We don't see him after that. A couple of characters talk about him and say, "Oh, I hope he's okay," or "I'm glad he got away," that type of thing. But beyond that, he's not really significant. So yeah, this next bullet point, this one, it just goes on about kind of basically the source. So Holland's Head Chronicles, if you're interested in going deeper into context, that's Shakespeare's source for Macbeth. So you can look at how he manipulates that source. That's a historical document, so it's meant to be realistic. And he in the historical version of Fleance, he escapes Macbeth. He lives in Wales. I think he marries like a Welsh princess or something. It's like a fairy tale. Then he has a boy, a son. The son comes back to Scotland, and he's the one who is related to King James. So he finally comes back and becomes the King of Scotland, and then his family stay in power for a while. So in reality as well, this is echoing the witch's prophecy in 1.3 at the beginning of the play, where he says, or they say to Banquo, "Thou shalt get kings, though thou be not." So King James, keep hammering home this point. I think I said it like 4 times, but it's really important because it's one of the things that you can get a message out of in your essays. And then if you understand the real message behind your text, you can always link stuff back to that. So it helps you create a thesis and so on. So King James is the main audience for this play. Most people think, it's not 100% certain, but pretty much it seems like that's the way it was. You can look more at the context lesson if you want more info on that. But King James is historically descended from Fleance, from Banquo, so that he's one of these good kings that's come from this good line after evil Macbeth is defeated and so on. So while James is watching this is kind of like a play about his own history in a way. It's kind of interesting because it's got this specific audience that has this specific effect for him. And obviously, when we watch it now, we're not related to Banquo and Fleance, so we have a slightly different feeling or a different response that the original audience and that the king wouldn't have had. So again, that gets you really interesting, deeper analysis that you can go into in an essay. So as a final point, this is quite important if you ever have to do a full essay on Fleance. He's a minor character and he does disappear halfway through the play, but he's very important in terms of the play's function. He helps to prove the message that good triumphs over evil, as Banquo does as well. He helps to convince the audience that true kings will always be reinstated on the throne, and by extension, that King James is one of these really good kings. And even if they are temporarily beaten by evil and ambitious usurpers, so people who try and take over, that's not going to last, and they might not get back in power themselves, but their bloodline is going to be reinstated. So it's saying, have faith in your king. Don't question the people that are in power. Don't use evil to make yourself more powerful. It's got all these really strong messages underneath the play and underneath the characters. So always go back to those messages in your essays. So this has been the Banquo and Fleance lesson. Hopefully it was useful for you guys and you enjoyed it. Definitely have a look at all the other character lessons and the Macbeth lessons in general and the Macbeth course on the Scribbly page. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? I need to think of a quicker way to say that. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed it and you'll enjoy the other lessons too. And I'll see you guys soon. Thank you for listening.